Imagine being a police officer, receiving a dispatch call that sends shivers down your spine. That's exactly what happened on a cold, dreary night in the heart of winter. Our officer, let's call him Officer Smith, was nearing the end of a long, uneventful shift. His radio crackled to life, breaking the monotonous hum of the patrol car's engine. A dispatch call. But this was no ordinary call. The voice on the other end was distorted, almost garbled, as if struggling to form the words. "There's a disturbance," the voice stuttered, "at an abandoned house." The voice was not just distorted, it was filled with sheer terror, a tone that even through the garbled transmission was impossible to ignore. The details of the reported activity were chilling. The voice spoke of strange, unexplainable sounds echoing from the house, the clatter of furniture being moved, the chilling laughter of a child in the dead of night. Yet, there were no children in the vicinity. No living soul should be in that forsaken house. Officer Smith felt a chill run down his spine. He had passed by that house countless times on his patrols. An old, dilapidated structure. It had been abandoned for years. Rumors swirled around it, stories of eerie occurrences, of ghostly apparitions. He had always dismissed them as mere tales, figments of overactive imaginations. But this call, this voice, it had a ring of truth that he couldn't ignore. As he turned his patrol car towards the abandoned house, his mind raced. Who had made the call? What was causing the disturbances? Could the rumors actually hold a grain of truth? His thoughts were interrupted by the sight of the house looming in his headlights. The once grand structure now stood as a hollow shell, a dark silhouette against the moonless night, its empty windows staring back at him, like the vacant eyes of a skull. As the officer approached the abandoned house, his heart pounded. Little did he know, the real terror was yet to come. As the officer steps into the house, the eerie silence sends a chill down his spine. The air is thick with dust, as if time itself has ceased to move within these forsaken walls. The wallpaper, once vibrant, now peels away in grotesque patterns, revealing the bare, decaying wood beneath. Each footstep on the creaky floorboards echoes through the hollow expanse, heightening the sense of isolation. As he ventures deeper into the house, he comes across a room that seems to have been left untouched by the ravages of time. The door creaks open to reveal strange symbols etched into the walls. They wind and twist in a bizarre dance, their meaning as elusive as the house's former inhabitants. The sight of these unsettling markings sends a shiver of unease coursing through him. His flashlight sweeps across the room, casting long, monstrous shadows that seem to writhe in the corners of his vision. Suddenly, the beam lands on a startling discovery, a wall filled with photographs. Faces stare back at him from the frames, their eyes void of any light, their expressions frozen in time. Each one seems to tell a tale more disturbing than the last. The officer can't help but feel as though these photos are the remnants of some dark, forgotten past. A chilling testament to the horrors that once unfolded within these walls. As he turns to leave the room, his heart pounds against his chest like a drum of war. His senses alert, his body coiled like a spring ready to snap. His flashlight illuminates the path ahead, its beam cutting through the oppressive darkness. And then, he sees it. The basement door, slightly ajar, a faint flickering light spilling out from its depths. But it was the basement door, ajar with a faint light flickering from within, that truly sent a shock of fear through him. A sense of dread washes over him like a tidal wave, his instinct screaming at him to turn back, to escape. But duty calls, and he must press on, into the terrifying unknown. With his heart pounding, the officer descended the creaky stairs into the basement. The air felt heavy, as if it carried the weight of untold stories. Each step echoed with a haunting resonance, the sound swallowed by the darkness below. The air was cold, the chill seeping into his bones, a stark contrast to the warmth he had left upstairs. The first thing he noticed was the smell. A peculiar mix of damp earth and something more sinister, an odor that sent a shiver down his spine. It was a scent that spoke of decay, of something that had been left to rot in the hidden depths of this subterranean horror. As his flashlight cut through the gloom, he saw the unsettling sight that lay before him. The room was a tableau of chaos and despair. Broken furniture lay scattered, testament to a struggle or a hurried departure. The walls were marked with strange symbols, a cryptic language that hinted at a disturbing ritual or a desperate plea for help. In the corner, he found a small makeshift bed. The sheets were stained with something dark and ominous, a silent witness to a crime that may have occurred. Nearby, a pile of discarded clothing lay haphazardly, as if someone had been undressed in a hurry or against their will. The officer's heart pounded in his chest as he took in the chilling scene. He found a series of photographs, each one more disturbing than the last. Faces of people, some he recognized from missing persons reports, stared back at him, their eyes pleading for help that had never arrived. And then, the most horrifying discovery of all, a makeshift cage, its door hanging open. Inside were traces of hair and a scrap of fabric that matched the clothing he had found. The implication was clear, and the officer felt a wave of nausea wash over him. Someone had been held here, against their will, their fate unknown. As he emerged from the basement, he realized the true horror of what he had discovered. The basement, once a simple storage area, had been transformed into a chamber of nightmares. And the officer knew, with a chilling certainty, that he had just uncovered a sinister secret that was meant to stay buried forever. In the aftermath of the chilling discovery, the officer grapples with the horrors he has witnessed. He is a sturdy man, trained to confront the worst of humanity, to maintain order in the face of chaos. Yet nothing could have prepared him for the gruesome sight he stumbled upon in the basement of that forsaken house. The images are etched into his mind, a haunting tableau of terror that refuses to fade. Every time he closes his eyes, the horrific scene replays, each detail as vivid as if he were standing there again. He can feel the damp and cold of the basement, the stench of fear and decay filling his nostrils, the raw terror seizing his heart. His dreams are invaded by the chilling echo of his own footsteps on the concrete floor, the deafening silence that seemed to consume every sound, and the sight of the unspeakable horror that he discovered. Sleep, once a refuge, has now become a battlefield, the darkness a monstrous canvas for his mind to paint the most terrifying images. His days are no better. The world outside, once vibrant and full of life, now seems tainted, its innocence lost. He can't shake off the feeling of dread that clings to him, like a shadow that refuses to part. His senses are heightened, the slightest noise sending a jolt of fear coursing through his veins. Yet he is an officer of the law, a beacon of safety in the storm of fear. He fights back against the memories, seeking solace in the routine of his duties. He finds strength in the camaraderie of his fellow officers, in the knowledge that he is not alone in his struggle. He clings on to hope, a fragile lifeline in the churning sea of his nightmares. The officer's tale is a stark reminder of the toll that such horrifying experiences can take on those sworn to protect and serve. It underscores the importance of offering support and understanding to those who bear the weight of the darkest corners of our society. Haunted by the chilling experience, the officer can't shake off the terrifying images etched in his mind. From the unsettling dispatch call to the horrifying discovery, the officer's experience is a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurk in the shadows. Let's take a moment to journey back through the chilling tales we've just shared. Each one a testament to the unseen perils that our police officers might encounter in the line of duty. Each one a glimpse into the darkness that can reside in the heart of humanity. Our first story took us through the eerie, static-filled airwaves of a dispatch call. The officer, alone in his vehicle, was guided by the disembodied voice of the dispatcher, leading him to a reality far grimmer than he could have anticipated. The sense of dread was palpable, the fear real, as he ventured into the unknown, proving that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not those we can see, but those we can only hear. Next, we found ourselves standing before the looming specter of the abandoned house, a place where the walls whispered tales of decay and despair. The officer, armed with nothing but his courage and his duty, crossed the threshold into an abyss of the unknown. The abandoned house was a stark reminder that places, like people, can be infected with evil, becoming a breeding ground for horror. Then, we descended into the terrifying basement, a place where the officer's worst fears were brought to life. The darkness was not merely the absence of light, but a living entity, wrapping itself around every corner, every object, every truth that was to be unearthed. It was a place where the officer was confronted with the grotesque reality of what mankind is capable of. As we delve into the darkness, we realize that horror is not just a genre, it's a reality for some. As for the officer, he continues to serve, knowing that every call could be his next descent into terror.